Hi there, and thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Jimmy's Decorative Moments. I'm really excited to be interviewing Emiko from Art of the Event today. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors. Thank you so much to Simone Williamson of Be Our Guest Party Rental for all of your support and providing us with our set decor today. Thank you so much to Glenn and Janice Williams of the Rossendale Arts Alliance. As always, your support is very much appreciated, and the show would not be possible without you. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce Emiko, who, in my opinion, is one of the most talented event designers in our industry. And she's so creative and so thoughtful, and she brings such an interesting background to her profession. So without much further ado, let's introduce Emiko. Hi, Emiko.
I'm tearing up after that introduction. Thank you.
No, thank you. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you were a little bit nervous, and it was kind of last minute.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and how you got started.
Okay, so I'm a local girl. I'm a Boston girl, but I actually have an interior design degree.
Okay.
That I got out in San Diego, and I was working in the home industry out there for about 10 years.
Why in San Diego? Like, why not Boston?
San Diego market is much different from the Boston market. There's a lot of new home building out there. There's just so much more land to put up new construction. Here in Boston, the focus is more like restoration work and historic preservation, and that wasn't really my thing.
Okay.
Plus, I mean, the weather's much better out in San Diego, so come on. So I was out there doing that. When the economy crashed, I had to come home to mom. And when you're a 30-something-year-old woman living with your mom again, you're like, oh my God, Mom, I love you, but come on. So I found myself down in Argentina.
Wow.
Teaching English for 2.5 years.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like after drinks, I speak Spanish really well.
Do you speak it well though? Like, do you feel like?
I mean, I can survive.
Yeah.
People understand what I'm trying to say.
Why did you decide to leave? Like what?
It's just the economy wasn't doing well anywhere.
In Argentina.
Yeah. I mean, it started to get pretty bad down there, the economic situation. And I also felt like, okay, it's time to come home and like figure out what I'm doing, rebuild myself. And that's when I started getting into catering.
Interesting.
So that was my...
May I ask you, I just want to interrupt because the Argentina excursion seems so exciting. Like, so aside from teaching English, like what were you doing there? Like, were you just kind of like having fun and like?
I was having fun. So living and working abroad was something I always wanted to do, but I just never had the opportunity to do it. I thought maybe I would do it during college, maybe I would do it after college, and it just never happened. And then this was like the perfect opportunity. It was
how did Argentina pop up?
Because I really wanted to go to France, and it was very tough at the time for U.S. citizens to get teaching jobs in European community countries because they would just hire Brits. You know, it's just much easier. There's a lot less paperwork. So the school that I got my teaching certificate through was like, well, we can send you to China or South Korea. And I was like, I would love to visit those countries. I don't think that I could commit myself to a year-long contract there.
Yeah.
So, they were just like, well, what about South America? And I thought, okay, Argentina, it's like the Paris of the South. I'll check it out. I'll give it a whirl. So.
Wow. You know what's funny? Like, that's a country I'm so unfamiliar with. Like, I don't even think I've seen a lot of images about it. So when you say Paris of the South America, like, I'm like, that's like a new term for me. Like,
Well, a lot of the architecture
Wow.
is based on Parisian designs. There was a lot of immigration from Italy and France, and so they kind of brought that style with them.
Okay.
They think of themselves more as European than Latino.
So,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
look at you here, Spanish. So then you decided to come back home.
I came back home.
To San Diego or to Boston?
To Boston.
Okay. So San Diego was a very short-lived experience.
It was a quick 10 years. I mean, it went by really fast.
Yeah.
But I just didn't at the time have the resources to reestablish myself out there. So I came back home to mom again.
Again? Oh my
Love
God.
you, Mom.
So what was it like walking through the doors again? Like, hi, Mom, it's me again.
My mom was like, what? I can't get rid of her. She's like, can you get married or like get a house, something? I don't know.
So then you got back home and you opened the doors to your bedroom. Was it the same bedroom you had grown up in?
Oh my God.
Was it? I love.
Yeah, it still had like all the stuffed animals.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there's something so beautiful about that because it's almost like this rock. Like throughout your life experience, it's like you return to that space. And it's like, I think of my bedroom now, and it's a bedroom that I've lived in since I was a GM in a hotel and restaurant, since I was in grad school, since I was at Winston Flowers, since I was with the catering company and beyond. And it's like, and even now having my own company, like I have been in that bedroom and loved that bedroom. And so sometimes when I climb up the stairs, I have deja vu and I'm like, God, like I have climbed up these stairs for so many years and experienced so many different things. And so it is kind of cool, you know? So when you say you went back home and you opened the doors to your bedroom, and again, you're faced with this future that is unknown and that you're unsure of how to fill, you know? And so what did you do?
Yeah, I didn't know how to fill it. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was like, do I try to get together the funds to go back out to San Diego? Do I try to get into interior design in Boston, which wasn't what I wanted to do in the first place? So I had a girls' night at a friend's house, and I cooked all the food for it. And one of the guests was like, wow, this is really good. Like, you should get into catering. My boyfriend is working for this catering company on the North Shore, and he can put in a word for you. And I was like, okay, why not?
Yeah,
you know,
why not?
I'm not doing anything else. So I called that my catering boot camp. And I started out as a server. And it was, well, I can say the name of the company.
Yeah, absolutely, totally, yeah.
It was Vinwood Caterers up
nice.
on the North Shore. And they've been in the business for like 30 plus years. They're great. They're well known for their weddings. Great product, great service. So I felt like after going through that boot camp, I could go anywhere, like any catering company, do anything. So I did bartending. I started event managing. I started helping out in the kitchen. Then I had a catering sales position.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just kept working through the ranks, just learning every aspect of it. And
Did you feel like it was a fit for you? Like, did you finally feel like you had found something that felt like more of a fit than anything else?
I did. I
Okay.
mean, I really liked being part of the events.
What did you love it? What did you love about it?
I mean, you're serving food and drink to people at a party. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, how can you not love being around that? You know, when the DJs get going and the lights are on.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a great environment to be in. So I loved that aspect of it. But I'll tell you what, catering is so much work. It's
I know.
so hard. And you're there for the setup, you're there through the whole event. Like, you can't just set up and leave. You're there through the whole event.
I know.
And then you have to do the whole breakdown too. So, you know, it starts to take its toll.
You know what? Yeah, because I remember when I worked for a caterer, I worked for Off Divine Catering, and I was the director of operations. And I remember, like, it was so grueling. Because for me, actually, it went even beyond arriving at the event and setting up. It was loading the trucks.
Yeah.
So we spent 2 hours loading the trucks, and then we went to the event and set it up, and then we stayed through the event, and then we broke out the event, and then we went back and unloaded the trucks. So the days, instead of being like 8-hour days, were 15-hour days.
Right.
You know, and it was just like, it was a lot of work, but it was like a good experience, and you really see the hustle and bustle
Oh, yeah.
of what a catering company does, which is a lot, you know?
Well, I think that's where my hustle comes from, because when I'm on site for events, like
You
our
move
event
quickly.
yesterday,
Yeah.
I move
Yeah, we
quickly.
did an event yesterday.
And I want my team to move quickly. So I'm
And
like,
they don't. Or no,
Not-
and what I mean is like not as fast as
Not as fast as I would like.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Because we're
yeah.
so used to like Speedy Gonzalez, and it's
Yes.
like sometimes with my team too. Like sometimes I want them to work just a little bit faster,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like no one has that sense of urgency unless you've been there. It's like through experience. I think.
unless you've been in catering and you're like, you know, you have like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Because usually you get there and you have 2 hours
Yeah.
or an hour and 45 minutes, and that's it. You know, so no, I think that's. So okay, so you did catering, and so your role as catering sales manager. So at last there you were selling events and selling
I was there
catering.
selling catering, and you know, every catering company will go through a slow period. You know, January, February, it gets slow.
Okay.
And that's usually when companies start to make cuts. They just have to lay off through, especially if it's a smaller company, just to kind of survive that period. So I did end up getting laid off. And but I was still picking up like freelance catering jobs with different companies. And one of the companies I was working with, the florist who does all their flowers was like, I just lost my interns. You know, they graduated, they moved away, and I need help. And so I'm always like, all right, I mean, I'll help. You know, I always like learning new things. So I started working with her. And that's how I learned to do my floral design.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, it was like trial by fire. I mean,
Why? Was it?
I mean, she's very good at what she does, and but not everyone's a teacher, you know. And because she works very quickly, it was like, here, I'm going to show you how to do a boutonniere.
Well, it's funny that you would say that because, like, in catering, having to hustle and work quickly, it's like you then saw that a floral designer has to read like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because if you're doing arrangements on site, you gotta like work fast. So yeah, so she would just show me really quickly what she wanted me to do, and I was like, okay, I can do that. And I would do my best, you know, and she'd come over and be like, no, it's wrong, do it again.
Wow.
So, you know, it was a good experience, and I learned a lot from her, I really did, and I still help her out once in a while.
Oh, she's still around?
Oh, of course.
That's awesome. I hope she sees the show. And like,
oh, yeah, she's still working. So I started doing that, and then I interviewed with Art of the Event.
Okay. While you were working with her.
Yeah, while I was doing the catering, while I was doing the floral
right, because you were doing a
work.
few different things at once.
Yeah.
Which was nice. That must have been a nice.
I like to change it up a little bit. I kind of get a little bored
I
doing
do
the
too.
same thing
Yeah.
over and over again. So yeah, I was doing that, and then someone said to me, you know what, I think Art of the Event is hiring. And I was like, what is that? Like, I've never heard of them. So I looked them up online, and I found their website, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is the next step for me for events.
Well, yeah, because you had done interior design. Then you were in a teaching role when you were in Argentina. So you had a leadership role, in other words. And then you came back and started doing catering of all levels, and then floral design. So it's almost like you had done so many different facets of what would be very beneficial for an event.
Right. Yeah,
Creation
exactly.
or design. Yeah. All right, so tell me about this interview. What was the role advertised as? Like,
I don't even remember. I think like event manager or account manager or something like that. But when I came in and I interviewed with Gail, who is one of the owners of the company, she and her husband Arthur own the company together. She saw my experience, and she knew that she wanted to hire me. She just wasn't sure what position yet. But she was like, we're going to offer you a position, and we'll figure it out as we go along. And I was like, that's great. I mean, I would love to have a full-time position as opposed to being on unemployment. So I was like, yes, I will come in and do that. And it just so happened that at the time that I was coming into the company, the floral producer at the time, the floral designer at the time, was transitioning. He was getting ready to move cross country to California.
Oh my God!
You know him, John Berry.
Yes,
Yes.
so John Berry. So for audiences, John Berry. John Berry and I competed for a role for a job with an event company, and it was a 9-hour competition, and it was 3 rounds, and I ended up winning, but we always stayed in touch, and we always kind of had a good like camaraderie. And when I started my company, actually, John helped me. He actually helped me with my first event at the Mandarin Oriental, which was my first event ever that I produced as an independent business person. So that was really special to me because he helped me so much. Like literally, like I was like doing this, but he helped. It was so kind. He was so kind. You know.
Yeah, he was a very cool person. I only worked with him for a short time, but again, I picked up more floral knowledge from him before he left. And so then that role just kind of opened up, and I just was in the right place at the right time. So as the floral designer at Art of the Event, I work with the other producers. So when they're selling floral on their events, they'll come to me and say, hey, you know, how much does this cost? Can I do this? Are these flowers available this time of year? So I'll let them know. I'll let them know substitutes if need be.
Yeah.
price out all the florals. I do all the floral ordering, and
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work in addition to the event producing.
Well, I was gonna say because we just did an event together yesterday, our first event together, and I didn't even, it never crossed my mind that you were a floral designer on that, like throughout the project or anything, because it was so non-floral related. So, but you were an event producer on the project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're an event producer and you do all the flowers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's kind of the thing at Art of the Event, because we have so many different departments. It's you won't find too many people who just do one thing. You know,
and I think it attracts people who don't want to just do one thing.
oh yeah,
It attracts people who want
totally.
to touch different things all the time, you know? So
Right. So my friend, my coworker Sam, who you spoke with on the phone a couple
Oh
weeks
yeah,
ago.
she's so nice.
Yeah,
She's really nice. Yeah.
she's awesome. So she is the head of our graphics department. So she does all the graphics work in addition to producing events. Yeah, and then the other Sam in our office, she was hired as the marketing person. So she does marketing in addition to
Event production.
event production.
Wow.
So we all have
well,
a couple
it's cool
different hats.
because it's like it's almost like it's a more, I guess it's a more fuller experience because it's like, as you're selling events, you know what it's like to be on site. To load the truck. Like yesterday, like, you know, I was helping you. Yeah.
Our
Sunday.
non-decorative moment.
A non-decorative moment. It was, but helping you unload the trucks and like seeing like how things are packed and what goes into that. And it's like, God, how beneficial is that? So when you're selling to a client, you say, listen, the labor fees are this because this is what it's like.
Yeah.
You know, we have to, A, it's all the packaging material. B, it's the people, you need 2 guys to take one thing off of a van and you have to do it slowly and purposefully, otherwise it'll break, you know? And then when you're loading into a complicated venue, it's even more logistically challenging. So it's like, this is, but I remember after we did that, I remember being like, now I feel so comfortable explaining to a client why, you know, if they're renting flat panels and this, this is why the service fee is that high, you know? So,
I'm glad you get that.
Yeah, I totally get it. I'm like,
Because
this is why.
I spend a lot of time justifying, you know, because people will look at it and go like, well, do you really need 5 people to load this in? I'm like,
yeah, you do.
yes, you do.
Yeah.
Because this is
If
heavy
not
stuff.
more.
And
You guys do props, you do graphics, you do floral, you do event production. Do you do event planning?
We could do planning.
You could do planning.
I mean, usually by the time people get to us, they already have a planner.
Yeah.
Or they are the planner for their corporate company. But I mean, we could. We do everything soup to nuts. Like last night after I left our setup, I went to another event and I had to wrangle the entertainment there.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So we provide the entertainment. We have lighting. We have,
So when you hear the phrase decorative moment, what does that mean to you?
Jimmy, I had no idea what you were saying. I was like, what? I don't know, decorative mode. But you know when it hit me was when we were doing a setup together a couple weeks ago and I was helping you with your floral.
Oh yeah, thank you at our wedding at the Four Seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you had me putting ruscus on this gate and, you know, to me it needed to come down and flow around. And I was like, hey, do you like this? And you kind of like kicked it out. And you were like, I like it like this. You were like, now I like that moment. And I was like, the moment that you kicked the ruscus out of the way, I don't really understand what's happening. But then you said it again later. You were like, we need some candles in here. We need like a candle moment. And it started to click. And I was like, oh, he's talking about decorative moments. And I'm like, okay. That's kind of brilliant because, you know, I would call it like a vignette, like I'm creating a vignette or I'm just doing this decor. But it is a moment because you kind of walk in and you see it and you experience it and it evokes some sort of a feeling or a response. And you have the moment and you move on through. And I was like, oh my God, Jimmy's brilliant. He's freaking brilliant.
I would hardly say I'm brilliant, but no, I think that's what I feel because like what you just described is exactly what I think of is a decorative moment or just a moment because it's like you're there and you're present with it. You know, you have to be present. You can't just like walk past it and you know, it's like, you know, there's something about what you're seeing that has captivated you, that interests you, that inspires you, that
Right.
moves you.
Right.
And in that moment, you're with it. Like you're communing with that piece, whatever it is. If it's like, you know, a beautiful linen on a table, if it's a cool prop that's, you know, situated in just the right place in the venue, if
Right.
it's a floral design, it's just something that has proven to be a decorative experience for you. And you can enjoy that moment for as long as you are able to, as you like. But when you walk away, you have been changed by it in some way, however subtly or subconsciously, but you have been, or even consciously, you have been affected by it.
Right.
You know, and I think that's exciting. I think for a company like Art of the Event, you are constantly producing so many experiences that kind of are consistent with the idea of decorative moments, you know? Like you're building things, you're fabricating things, you're designing things, you're creating things, you're, you know, telling the client what walking through the event with them is like a whole experience for them in and of itself. So we only have 1 minute left, Emiko, but I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. I know it was last minute, but I really appreciate it. And I loved learning about your background and
thanks.
Argentina and San Diego, and finally back to Boston and walking through those doors of the bedroom you grew up in and making the decision to go into catering and then a floral design, like work with the floral designer and then ultimately Art of the Event where you are now. So I can't wait to see what happens next and like, you know, where your path leads to. So I think it's kind of exciting. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Jimmy's Decorative Moments. I really enjoyed interviewing Emiko, and I hope you enjoyed learning from her. I always like to end the show by thanking our sponsors once again. Thank you to Simone Williamson of Briar Guest Party Rental for all of your support and for providing the set decor today. And thank you to Lisa Oberlander for coordinating it all. Thank you to Glenn and Janice Williams of the Rosenthal Arts Alliance for your continued support of the show and making it happen on a week-to-week basis. You know, I really enjoy interviewing folks on this show because I constantly learn from them as well. And there's so many different decorative tips and elements that I'm able to acquire and bring into my own life. And I hope you do the same as well. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.